The Nokia N93 was Nokia's first mass-produced GSM phone. While it could only make calls and send texts, the 2110 wasn't much for looks or features, but it was the first Nokia phone to have the company's iconic ringtone. Bearing a similar design to the 2110, the 6110 earns its spot on this list for being the first Nokia with the wildly addictive game Snake. Almost everyone seemed to have the 5110 as the millennium turned. It was the very first cell phone that I ever owned. Sturdy and simple, it also had a battery that lasted forever. For a bit of personalization, you could swap out the outer cover for one with a different color. The distinctively styled 8110 was the first Nokia phone to have a slider design. Its other names were Banana Phone and the Matrix Phone. Features were still slim at this point, you didn't even get an alarm clock. At Mobile World Congress 2018, Nokia brought the 8110 back in bright yellow, and this time, it had 4G. Next came the 7110, which added the spring-loaded slider we saw on the film version of the 8810. It was also the first Nokia phone to have a mobile browser and T9 predictive text. The small and light 8210 was another model that almost everyone had. It had an infrared port, sort of a Bluetooth precursor, and you changed the covers. Also a silver screen star in its own right, it appeared in Absolutely Fabulous and the first Charlie's Angels. The trusty, sturdy 3310 had voice dialing, interchangeable covers, a calculator and a user-friendly design similar to that of the wildly popular 3210 from 1999. And at the 2017 Mobile World Congress, Nokia brought it back in a new version. Long and thin, the 6310i was Nokia's first Bluetooth phone, and by this time Java-based games, voice commands, 5G data and a basic personal organizer were standard features. You could even send photo messages, it just didn't have a camera. The 3530 was one of many Nokia phones to feature a wacky keypad. The next year, the 3595 added a few more features to a similar design, and the 2300 splashed on a bright pink and purple skin. Color screens were still a new feature by the time. Another actor, it got its turn in Minority Report. The 7650 was the first Nokia phone to feature an integrated camera. It also was known for its slider design, the Symbian operating system, a color display, and a navigation joystick. As fun as Snake was, Nokia knew that more sophisticated mobile gaming was the future. Its next play was the Curious Engage. Thanks to a clunky form factor that required gamers to remove the battery to swap titles, this one didn't last long at all. There was also the weird way you held the Engage to make a call. That earned it the name, the Taco phone. Simple to the core, the 1100 was designed for customers in emerging markets who needed only the most basic features. It remains one of the world's best-selling phones. The 3200 was a unique phone on a few counts. You could take apart the handset's shell and replace the paper faceplate with a selection of designs that came in the box, or you could draw your own. Also, instead of 9 individual buttons, 6 oval keys set in uneven rows had 2 characters each. Its features included a flashlight, a CIF camera, an FM radio, an infrared port, and polyphonic ringtones. Powerful for its time, the 3650 was an early smartphone of sorts running on the fledgling Symbian operating system. It also had a display that supported 4096 colors, Bluetooth, a speakerphone, and an external slot for multimedia arts. But its biggest story was the remarkable circular alphabetic keypad. Nokia later kept the features and the basic shape, but opted for a more traditional keyboard on the 3620. It was fitting that the 5100 was part of the company's active 5000 series. Encased in a durable rubber shell, it was protected from moisture, shocks, and dust. The offbeat feature set included a thermometer, a flashlight, a calorie counter, and an FM radio. And if you didn't like the blue shell, you could change it for one in orange, green, or dark gray. Similar models included the 5210 and the 5140. Sure, it resembled a brick, but the 6600 was the company's most advanced model at the time. It had Bluetooth, the Symbian operating system, an infrared port, a VGA camera, a memory card expansion slot, an integrated real-time player, email, and an XHTML browser. In the riveting 2000 for movie Cellular, Kim Basinger's rescuer spoke to her on a 6600. The nearly identical 6620 was adapted for North American cellular networks, and the 6630 upgraded the feature set in a design with a bulbous bottom end. Who other than Nokia could make this phone? Part of Nokia's Fashion 7000 series, the teardrop-shaped 7600 had a 65,000 color display with keys arranged on either side. It also had interchangeable covers, a VGA camera, an MP3 player, Bluetooth, an infrared port, and USB support. The Nokia 7610 that came the next year opted for an elongated teardrop shape with a swirled keypad. Then in 2009, the bizarre 7705 twist coupled a square shape with a swivel design. An early pass at combining an MP3 player with a phone, the Nokia 3300 got a few things right, including great sound quality, an FM tuner, support for voice commands, and an external memory. Looking a bit like the 3300, the Nokia 7710 was the company's first phone with a touchscreen. The follow-up to the bulkier 6800 from 2003, the 6820 featured a novel flip-out keyboard for messaging. It was very cool at the time, and I loved how the display switched orientation when you opened the keyboard. Give 'em the old razzle-dazzle must have been the theme of the 3220's designers. For rubber grips on the side of the phone illuminate in red and green when it rang and when you placed a call. Like on the 3200 you could make custom stencils, but the 3220 had a bigger surprise in store. If you added a special faceplate and wrote a message on the keypad, you could spell out the message in lights by waving the phone in the air. Yes, this was a phone, also called the lipstick phone. The 7280 pulled apart in the middle to answer calls. Since it didn't have a keyboard, you interacted with the handset solely through a scroll wheel, a menu button, and two other keys. Dialing phone numbers on it was a pain, but texting was easier than you might think. Inside there was a VGA camera, an FM radio, and Bluetooth. It even had a WAP browser, though it was frustrating to use on the tiny display. Look, another crazy Nokia keypad. A successor model to the original 9000 communicator, the 9300 had a colored display and a spacious keyboard. Though slimmer than its ancestor, it was still bulky and relatively heavy, 5.9 ounces. Another model in the Fashion series, the 7370, was one of the company's few swivel designs. Nokia only dabbled in flip phones. I used the Nokia 6133 for a year or so just before the iPhone appeared. It had an expandable micro slot, edge connectivity, and FM radio, among other features. There was also a button on the right side of the hinge that lets you flip the phone open. Made for music, the 3250 had a unique twisting design that enabled you to rotate between a numeric keypad and dedicated music controls. And it came in pink. It could store up to 2 GB of music with a memory card. By rotating the camera lens, you could take photos. The Nokia 5700 Express Music had a similar design. One of the first of Nokia's E series, the less sophisticated alternative to the N series, the E71 was a slim workaholic phone that almost looked like a BlackBerry. It opened, it twisted, and it turned. The N93 was the pinnacle of Nokia's give 'em everything we got strategy for its N-series smartphones. Sure, it was gigantic, but it had a ton of features like a 3.2 megapixel camera with a Carl Zeiss lens, video recording, Wi-Fi, and a full web browser.